Hey, what's up, everyone? It is day 2 of the Crucible League, and really the smoothest league start that we've had in a while, I think. Like, honestly, very, very few hiccups. The Crucible mechanic itself, I'm going to hold off on Judgment, see what it feels like at the end game in red maps and cooking all the different items. All I can say right now is I did a handful of times during the maps. It bricked a couple items for me, just like I had to go back and scour them and remove the nodes, and it was just really rippy and slow. At least while I was leveling through the axe, I didn't particularly enjoy it. It didn't add to my experience at all. But I'm going to hold on for Judgment until a little bit later, let them patch things, figure stuff out, and also us players figure out the flow there. What I wanted to address today is I've seen a lot of comments, both on YouTube and in Discord, folks saying like, hey, X, Y, and Z, this is my build right now, and I'm feeling kind of squishy. To paraphrase Ben on his stream last night, welcome to leveling a witch. If you are used to playing a champion or a juggernaut, you get baseline defense that just feels really good. You feel way more defensive. It is just a squishier ascendancy, and especially a build like this where it gets so much damage almost for free, you can very easily outstrip your defenses and your gear. That layered on top of the fact that Molten Shell basically feels worthless at lower armor values. I've made some small adjustments on this build, and I want to just let you guys know what you can look out for so you feel a little bit tankier. Honestly, a witch in general just will never be a juggernaut, but you can make this moderately defensive. And I think a lot of folks, they're, newer players they're playing, they don't really understand some of the fundamental rules of thumb. Not to mention that GGG has ramped up the damage of monsters quite a bit in the past couple years, especially the past 6 months or so, and the map mods have gotten scarier, and we just have to be extra careful. So yeah, I'm just going to talk about really quickly different ways that you can do quick little audit of your defenses and make sure that your build feels pretty good. So starting off, as a baseline, 300 life per act. This is the general rule of thumb in the game. Very early on, you're probably going to be following that pretty well. By the time you fight the Vaal Oversoul, 600-ish, Dominus, you'll have 900, maybe even 1,000 if you took a little bit slow. However, I've seen a lot of comments, and it's very easy with this build to go way too fast and not upgrade your gear whatsoever. Seen a lot of comments that are like, I'm level 67, I have 2,000 life, why am I so squishy? Well, by the time you're level 67, you should have about 3,000 life. And as a witch, just in general, right? We take every single life node that we can. This is what it's like on a witch. It is just a little bit harder to get that life pool. Regarding that, you just want to be looking out for, like, yeah, this is probably my worst item that I have equipped right now. You want to be looking out for any prefix on your gear that doesn't have life on it. At the very least, craft life on that and try to get that going. I strongly encourage you, like, by the time you get to maps, like, spend some time in Blood Aqueducts, take a little bit of time upgrading your gear. You should have about 3,000 life by the time you hit maps. Flasks. This is a common thing that we see all the time, particularly for newer players, and our fault as build creators of not emphasizing this enough. Flasks are a very large part of your defense in Path of Exile. So I strongly encourage you, it doesn't matter where the suffix is, but look for a suffix that says increased armor and one that says increased evasion, and then you want to be using, at the very least, a jade and a granite flask. That together should feel, you can see on my build right here, 3,800 armor and 1,900 evasion. When I pop my flask, 9.5k and 5.7k. At low numbers, you can more than double the amount of armor and evasion you have with flasks alone. That is just how important they are. So if you're running around in maps and you're just running a bunch of life flasks and like 2 Quicksilver flasks, you're missing half your defense. All right, next up is actually having armor and evasion on your gear. Unfortunately, energy shield's kind of bad. You do want a decent amount a little bit later when you get your Eldritch Battery, but besides that, armor and evasion are your real baseline there. And if you have a lot of gear that just doesn't have armor and evasion, I do strongly recommend, particularly getting that armor up. Low values of armor do almost nothing. If you just don't have any armor at all, I do strongly recommend just doing evasion, running Grace, and making sure that you can get that evasion chance up as high as possible. Witch just doesn't have that many other sources of physical damage reduction, PDR, so we just don't have that many choices besides running Determination, trying to get as much armor as possible. Later on, we can go for veiled prefixes, we can go for implicits that say physical damage reduction, but at low values, we just don't have access to that. Other thing you can do is wear a shield. If you're willing to give up a little bit of damage, just toss on a shield, especially one that has a lot of armor, a lot of life. And if you can get PDR and spell suppression, that can go a long way. Try to get these values as high as possible. Really, armor below 10k is doing very little. The thing that I would call attention to is this estimated physical damage reduction. That number means almost nothing. The way that armor works is the bigger the hit, the lower that the physical damage reduction will be for the same value of armor percentage. If you're looking at this number and, without your flask up, if you're just looking at 1,000 or 2,000 armor, it's okay with my flask up at my current character level. We do want to get as much as possible. If you only have like 500 to 1,000 and you're looking at a piece of gear that just has really, really high evasion, if you're going to be hit 10, 15, 20% fewer times, that's going to be better than just shrugging off, 50 to 100 physical damage. Be cognizant of what the damage types that are coming in, how you're being able to mitigate that. Next up is recovery. I just want to call quick attention here to this Fire Mastery. This is one of the strongest nodes that we've seen yet. I've seen a couple people say, hey, I didn't really want to take that. I wasn't sure what it did. I don't know. For me, this is a very obvious word. Maybe I've been playing Path of Exile too long, or just RPGs in general. But uncapped means the total number. It means the number in parentheses. So I'm getting 87 life regen from this single point right here. And you could very easily, at higher values of investment, hit 150, 200 fire res, and that gives you so much life regen as a baseline. To the point where, if you're okay with not that much regen, you could drop vitality. It's a lot better than nothing. Just want to call attention, that's a crazy, crazy good mastery. Besides that, be careful about using your life flask, and then later on, we will have Blood Drinker. But as a witch, we're not hitting that hard or that often for our on hit. We just don't have that many other sources of recovery. So raw life regen, your life flask, and then later on, something like Blood Drinker. This is about the best that we can do. Later on, there's other things. You can go for life on block with a shield. Do really want to get a little bit tankier. I strongly recommend going into a shield. A single really good scepter will carry you into red maps, so you don't have to worry about that. Other thing is your chaos res. Chaos damage is very, very common. They've added even more this league with the Crucible monsters. We're seeing tons of them. They're doing Forbidden Rite. There was a spider that was doing some huge slam that looked like it was doing poison damage. Chaos resistance is really, really important. You can see I'm here at -11. Much to my chagrin. I strongly recommend trying to get a little bit more of that. Thing you can do is you could take tolerance right here. They moved the chaos res from here up to these tolerance nodes. Unfortunately, we lose chance to avoid being stunned, but for 3 points here, you can get 39% chaos res as well as a little bit chance to avoid bleeding and poison. Early on, that's probably not too bad to take. There's a lot of chaos damage in the game, so just be careful about that. You may be rolling maps that say, hey, looks really, really easy, says monsters always poison on hit, you kind of ignore it. But if you're running around with -50, -60 chaos res, that's probably killing you. Look for amethyst rings and look for amethyst flasks. That can also help a lot. And then speaking of which, be very careful with your maps and altars. They can get scary. They keep adding more and more scary mods that you can roll on your maps or click on the altars. Just be very careful about that. Be cognizant of what is dangerous to your character in your current configuration as you're getting into maps, as you're setting things up. There's just so many mods. Monsters crit, monsters poison, monsters impale. It's just going to be all over, and the game is trying to kill you. The other thing is my own personal rule of thumb. I like to have about 3,000 life when I start white maps. I like to have about 3,500 when I'm in yellow maps. And I really want to have about 4K life when I hit red maps. You may be able to kill the monsters, and if you don't mind dying, go for it. You can blast forward. But if you want to stay alive, keep leveling up your character and push that progression, I do strongly advise you to just take a little bit of extra time, level up your gear, and that'll go a very, very long way to staying alive. And then as always, you can join the stream. I'll be streaming in just a little bit after posting this video. You can ask questions. I'll try to be doing as many reviews there and giving you guys as much advice and help as I can on the stream today, making sure you guys have a great 3.21 Crucible. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.